we're back. Your show, Penny.
All right. Well, we talked about soils and we talked about testing and we talked about site selection. So let's finally talk about what you put in your food plot. And all right, since it's August, let's talk about fall food plots, right? The most important thing that I think that you can do is put a mix in. I know you guys were thinking about putting some pure stands in, and I think that's probably good just to see what happens. But in my line of work, and I'm probably a little bit like a farmer, is you want to put everything that you can out there, and diversity is great. Diversity is better because if you put 4 or 5 seeds out and only 3 make it, then at least you still have something in your food plot. You don't have all that wasted time and effort. But for fall food plots, what we like to see is at least a 3 or 4 seed mix. And the most important things to put in there are things like cereal grains. So you've got oats over here. We've got a little out here in front to show you what they look like. You've also got wheat and ryegrass, and those are those cereal grains, and they actually sustain that food plot throughout the wintertime into late January, early February until green up again, when the good native browse is available for deer and you start to getting some green leaves on there so they can eat it. But that is important. You also have peas that are important too, and clover. So you want to have that mix. I would say maybe even a 5 seed mix, like all of the 5 that we have here for you. Those 3 cereal grains and these peas. Austrian winter peas are really good. These guys are going to make it a little further than something like iron and clay cowpeas. Cowpeas are really kind of going to die after that first frost. They're going to be gone. But winter peas will sustain themselves a little bit further into the winter, and it'll also provide a little bit more protein than just these cereal grains alone. Now, the reason you want to put clover in, and this is a good example of one I haven't seen growing very much. This is Apache clover. Actually, this is, I know of it now. This is pretty good because this is a Texas variety of clover.
That's correct.
And what that means, and that's one thing that's important that we should talk about, are seed varieties. When you talk about a seed, this is clover, and it's Apache clover, and it's grown right here in Texas. And those seeds are harvested here in Texas off of plants that are grown at a site probably not too far from here, maybe somewhere near the Ag Experimental Station. But that's important because if you look at some of these big retailers and you turn the bag around and you see, Massachusetts or Augusta, Georgia or something like that, those seeds were probably not grown right here in Texas, and these seeds are evolved for Texas soils and are really going to do better in a place like East Texas or Southeast Arkansas.
That's a very good point. Over on your left is what is it?
This over here is vetch. This I'll also sing the praises of vetch too, because vetch and clover are what is known as legumes, and they fix nitrogen in the soil. And what happens is, see these guys, it's interesting because they have these little nodules on their roots, and they actually take the nitrogen from the soil and fix it so that it's in the right shape, basically. It's chemistry again. Like I know you didn't want to do chemistry today, but
no.
but
matter of fact, there's one question I would like to ask.
Sure.
Broadleaf, like turnip greens, collards, chicory is the same version, just improved, right?
Right.
Do you recommend putting like some of that in?
I think, like I said before, diversity is great. The more you can put in, the better. I don't think I can tell you or any one person in our audience to put one thing in and it would work. Chicory might work for you and might not work for somebody else. So I say put it in and try it.
Well, how about telling the folks how to get a hold of you and give them your email address, or if they have any questions, feel free to send Penny an email. Now, she's a very busy lady, so she may not get back to you the same hour, but she will get back to you if you have any questions. I'm sure you'll be glad to answer them. I will be glad to answer them. Actually, email is probably the best way to get a hold of me. My email is pretty easy. Hopefully they'll show it on the screen there. It's just my name. It's penny.wilkerson@tpwd, which is Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, .state.tx.us. And of course you can reach me at my home office at 903
796-3203.
But now Penny's been out doing some wildlife counting the last 3 or 4 nights and going to go tonight, so don't call too early in the morning for the next 3 or 4 days.
That's all right.
Penny is a very nice young lady, and she's very enthused. And Penny, it's been a pleasure. My wife wasn't sitting over, I'd hug your neck. My good friend and producer Bill McBroom behind the camera, and as usual, he says he's got a great face for the radio, so we're going to leave him back here. Penny, one thing we forgot to talk about that you just reminded me was a browse cage. Would you like to explain a browse cage or the terminology you used a while ago, please?
Sure. I think I said browse exclusion or something like that, an exclusion cage. And basically what that is you could use pretty much anything. We could use a tomato cage and clear it off so that the deer can't get in there. But what you need to do is take that cage or some kind of little square of mesh or something and put it inside your food plot. And the reason that you do that is to keep the deer out of that one little section to see how that food plot is growing, basically to see how they utilize it. Because if you've got that cage around the middle of your food plot, then it'll grow naturally and you don't have all the herbivories, what we call it, when deer munch on stuff. But you don't have the herbivory inside that cage, so you can see, okay, are the deer really coming to my food plot? Is this food plot not coming up? That's one thing that I hear from a lot of people is, man, I planted my food plot and it was perfect on September 15th and I put lime and this and this and this, and then it never came up. Well, if they had put an exclusion cage in there, they would have seen that it didn't come up because it didn't get a chance to come up because the deer ate it to the ground. But whatever would have been in that exclusion cage would have come up just like normal. So that's one thing that we do to try and gauge if what we're doing is actually working for the deer.